Whenever there's an incident at a workplace, an event that causes an injury or a near miss, it must be investigated. Because if you can find the cause of the incident, you can help prevent future incidents. Every incident investigation involves 6 key steps: preparation, visiting the scene, conducting interviews, examining physical evidence, analyzing the evidence, and preparing a report. Every workplace should have a plan in place outlining who's responsible for conducting incident investigations. For the purposes of this video, let's say that person is you. You may be a committee co-chair, worker representative, manager, or supervisor. You will work as part of an investigation team that includes all or some of these people, at least one representative of your employer, and one representative for workers. It's a good idea to have a prepared investigation kit. A basic kit includes an investigation checklist, an investigation form, high visibility tape, pencils and pens, graph paper, a measuring tape, a clipboard, a camera or video camera, note paper, plastic bags, envelopes, a flashlight, and a ruler. You should also have access to any safety equipment that might be needed, including a hard hat, eye protection, hearing protection, and protective clothing and footwear. As an investigator, the sooner you can get to the scene, the better. The first thing to do is to make sure the area is safe. That means clearing the area, then securing the scene by taping or closing it off to prevent further dangers to workers, as well as to protect evidence. It also means making sure all energy sources are locked out and all equipment is turned off or unplugged. Once the scene is secure, you'll want to check on who has been notified about the incident. Every workplace should have a procedure in place for notifying family members, staff, and, in cases involving a serious incident, Manitoba Workplace Safety and Health. Keep in mind the employer is required to contact Manitoba Workplace Safety and Health when a serious incident occurs. This includes a death or serious injury that causes a worker to suffer, such as an injury resulting from electrical contact, unconsciousness as the result of a concussion, a fracture of the skull, spine, pelvis, arm, leg, hand, or foot, amputation of an arm, leg, hand, foot, finger, or toe, third-degree burns, permanent or temporary loss of sight, a cut or laceration that requires medical treatment at a hospital, asphyxiation, or poisoning, the collapse or structural failure of a building, tower, crane, hoist, temporary construction system, or excavation, an uncontrolled spill or escape of a toxic, corrosive, or explosive substance, any explosion, fire, or flooding, and the failure of an atmosphere supplying respirator. Once the scene is secured and people are safe, begin gathering basic information. For example, if a worker was injured, you should find out the worker's name, date of birth, and contact information, the nature of the worker's injury, where the worker was taken and by whom, and the worker's job title, as well as how long the worker has been doing that job. This is also the point where you should start gathering evidence from the incident area. As you gather evidence and samples, always remember that you are looking for both the direct and indirect cause. The direct cause is exactly what it sounds like, the cause of the worker's injury. The indirect cause involves the factors that led to the incident occurring. Things such as the task or procedure being used at the time, the materials and/or equipment being used, the worker or workers involved, management's role, and the workplace environment at the time of the incident. As you investigate, remember that this is never about placing blame. Look at all the factors that led to the incident carefully and objectively, because ultimately, your job as an investigator is to help ensure that there are no future incidents. To start your investigation, it's a good idea to sketch the scene first and begin taking measurements. Think of it as drawing a map with the most important information in the middle. The sketch should include the position and conditions of injured workers, tools, equipment and materials, safety devices and personal protective equipment used in the area, and anything else that seems significant. After doing a sketch and measuring, take photos or videotape the scene from various angles, being careful not to disturb anything. All the information you gather should be carefully labeled with descriptions and placed with any notes taken at the time. Those records will be important when presenting your findings later on. At the same time, compile a list of names and addresses of anyone who witnessed the incident. You'll want to start conducting interviews as soon as possible while the details are still fresh in their minds. While gathering the names and addresses of the witnesses, separate them into different categories. Eyewitnesses who actually saw or were directly involved in the incident, people who arrived immediately after the incident occurred, people who saw the events leading up to the incident, and people who have information about the specific work, processes, equipment, materials, and other aspects of the area where the incident took place. Witnesses should be interviewed individually and ideally at the scene so they can help you get a better picture of what was going on at the time. As you conduct your interviews, be aware of the emotional state of each witness and proceed with empathy and understanding. After all, the incident happened in their workplace, and maybe even to someone they know. There may be anger or resentment. There may be fear of being blamed. There may be concern about getting someone else in trouble, or just uncertainty about what happened. Be calm and keep things as simple as possible. Write down the witness's statement, read it back, and clarify anything that's unclear. Then have the witness read and sign their statement. And don't be surprised if some statements contradict each other. People coming in at different times and standing in different places are going to have different views. After gathering all the evidence, you need to begin examining the physical evidence. Examining physical evidence may require outside help. For example, you might need an engineer, a health professional, or someone familiar with chemical analysis to provide an expert opinion. Just be certain in examining the evidence that you are thorough and careful, have machines and equipment tested for malfunctions, check the mechanical specifications on machines, and review any related documents that might be available. This includes past incident reports, WCB claim records, maintenance reports, even minutes from past committee meetings, anything that might help give you a more complete picture of the incident. At this point, you should already have a fairly good idea of exactly what happened and how it happened. But true analysis means figuring out why it happened. Map out the events in writing using evidence to support each conclusion or observation. Start with the task and procedures being used at the time. Note any issues related to the equipment or materials being used. Consider the worker, not to place blame, but to see what factors contributed to the incident. Consider management's role. For example, if they were ensuring all safety procedures were being followed properly at the time, note what the workplace environment was like, and if something in particular changed, contributing to the incident. Your final report is important because it's what will provide the catalyst for change and ideally point to solutions. Manitoba Workplace Safety and Health has a format to use. Provide the evidence you collected. Identify the direct and indirect causes of the incident. Recommend immediate and long-term actions to correct the problem. And finally, be sure to note who prepared the report, when it was prepared, and list who received copies. If you have a Workplace Safety and Health Committee, you need to get the signatures of both co-chairs or else the signature of your Workplace Safety and Health representative. Once you've turned in your report, the Safety and Health Committee, or your representative in your employer will discuss your findings and recommendations. Be prepared to answer questions, clarify points, or address any concerns the committee may have. This video has covered a lot of ground, but it's still no substitute for proper training and education on incident investigation. For more information and for upcoming training opportunities, visit safemanitoba.com.